Welcome everybody to another edition of Dan's Grand Valley Railroad. We're going to do a quick video this week where we're going to answer about 5 or 6 of my most recent viewer questions about building the Grand Valley layout. I've had some very interesting questions lately, so I want to address those for everybody and do that this week. And we also have a new fan photo feature presentation for you this week. Somebody sent in a nice picture, so we'll get to that a little bit later. So again, if you guys want to be featured in that section of the video, go ahead and send your photos of you with your Dan's Grand Valley merchandise, or picture of your Grand Valley layout, or where you're at in your project. Doesn't even have to be a Grand Valley, but send me a picture and we will feature you in the fan photo feature. That email address, I'll put it right down here for you. It's dansgrandvalley@gmail.com. I'll also have it in the description for you guys. So this week, it's just a quick video. I want to answer a few viewer questions that I've been getting, some pretty good ones. I've got quite a few fans of the channel who are building the Grand Valley layout, also have just acquired the Grand Valley layout and they're starting. So I've had some pretty good questions that I want to share with everybody. All right, so we'll get right to it. One of the questions I had was for the Hydrocal Plaster and pouring the rock molds like these guys here, what was the consistency of the plaster that I mixed up? Well, I use this lightweight Hydrocal Plaster. I think that's what came with the kit. They have several. If you look at the chart here on the back, there are several different types, and I like the lightweight. It's not the strongest, but it is very light and easy to work with. The mixture calls for, if you look at the instructions here, 2.5 to 1 is the ratio. I mix it basically about the consistency of toothpaste so that you can pour it easily into the molds. Working time is about 5 to 8 minutes, depending, but that's how I did it, and it seemed to work fine. The rocks can break if you're not careful with them, but the nice thing about that is if you have some that break, let me see, here I have one here. I know somewhere on the layout I have one that broke, so I just used the different parts. And yeah, I think right here, this actually may have broken here. So I just kind of had it split off and put some boulders and rubble down there. But yeah, there's no right or wrong way when it comes to casting rocks, really. They're like nature. And you know, I've got quite a few over there above the portal and stuff, so there's no right or wrong way. But to answer the question again about the consistency of toothpaste, maybe a little bit lighter so you can pour it easily. It's all going to dry regardless. All right, another question, or actually a tip. I was asked about these dimples that are in the plaster cloth, and does it bother me, or should I work at not having that, or what should I do? Question is, well, the answer is, I should say, my answer, it doesn't bother me that much. I do kind of wish they weren't as prevalent. Pretty much where the grass turf is, it doesn't matter, but on the sides of the slopes, you do see it. So what a lot of people will do after they do the plaster cloth, they will make a slurry and they'll paint it on with a brush, and that'll just fill into those gaps and you won't have that pattern. So I do highly recommend doing that. As you can see there, mine show a lot of those dimples. If you go to Bill and Judy's page, which I'll always have down there in the link, their Facebook page, where he is at that stage where he just completed the plaster cloth and then he did that slurry technique. It came out terrific. So I definitely recommend, after you lay the plaster cloth, take that extra step, make up a slurry, and go ahead and paint that on. It's going to make all the difference. For me, I figure at some point I'll probably add some more turf over along there, over on the back side there by that where it's real steep. I'll probably just add some more turf, make a glue solution, paint it on there, and then sprinkle the turf on there, and that should take care of it. For right now, it really hasn't bothered me, and I'm just leaving it the way it is, but that might be a project that we'll take on down the line. Okay, another question that I get a lot, actually, and it's from people who are right at the beginning stages. They've either just gotten the kit or they're getting everything. But the question is, do I have to use Atlas Track, or can I use some of the other brands that are available? And the answer to that is simple. If you can obtain the 60-degree and the 90-degree cross, that is, if you're going to stick to the plans, if you can get those pieces, and also the small 1-inch, half-inch, and smaller little pieces that it takes to complete the plan as it is, then yes, you can use any of the track that you want. You can use the Bachmann Easy Track. There are some other brands that have that same style. A lot of guys will use the Bachmann Easy Track, which has the built-up plastic ballasting on it, and then they'll just go ahead and ballast right over that. Makes it a little easier, actually. But again, if you can get all the pieces required for the track, if you look at the back of your instruction book for the Grand Valley, it'll show you all the pieces that are needed. In fact, let's go to that. All right, just quickly laying out, this is the instruction book for the Grand Valley layout kit. On the very back, it will show you every piece of track that you need. So here is are the main 9-inch straights, 6-inch straight, and then, you know, how many of each that you need. Where it gets tricky is, you know, like 1.5 inches, and then there's some 1.25 inches, 1 inch, and then your radiuses, and they're all 18-inch curves on this. So 18-inch, a half radius, a third radius. So as long as you can get these, there's the 90-degree and the 60-degree crossing, the 9-inch Warren truss bridge, that's standard, you can get that. But these switches, as long as you can get these in another brand, it'll work. Doesn't matter if it's Easy Track and it's a little bit taller. You may need to compensate a little bit with your track height. I mean, imagine that this track, if it's Easy Track, it's going to be just a little bit higher off the riser. So you'd want to compensate for that with your riser height, or your tunnel portal height, I should say, but that's easy. So take that into consideration if you're going to use a different track. Just make sure you can get all of the pieces needed to complete the layout. Okay, another question I get all the time has to do with track as well, but it's about the road bed and the risers. Now, in past videos, I have stated, be very careful when you're laying the risers before you lay the road bed, the track bed, and the track, to make sure that the risers are level. Now, some question has come up with that. This is a grade going up there, Dan. That goes on a pretty steep grade. How can I make sure that's level? What do you mean? So I don't mean level as in the whole layout. Everything has to be level, because obviously this is a grade going up. What I mean is, you want to take a straight edge and you want to make sure that the track beds, the risers, are level to themselves. Let me grab a straight edge and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, I've got a steel rule here that's a flat edge, straight edge. I've also cut power to the NCE booster, and the power cab has no power, so I'm not going to short out the tracks when I put this on here. But what you want to do, now imagine I don't have track on here, I just have a bare styrofoam riser. And let's say two of them come together right here. I want to put a straight edge on there to make sure that that seam, even though it's at an angle, even though it's at an incline, that seam where the two risers come together are level with each other. The reason is you do not want to have a dip in the track here where they come together. So if you do, when you have a car ride over it, there's going to be a dip and a rise, and that will cause cars to uncouple. So you want to be sure that those seams are very flat. And the same thing especially goes inside the tunnels, because if you have an area where risers come together, they're not level, you don't have a level roadbed, you could have a problem inside the tunnel and you wouldn't be able to get to it, and that would be very hard to deal with. So let's say you've glued down all your risers and you're working on that step now. You take your straight edge around and you find out, uh-oh, Dan, I have an issue right here. This riser is like this and this riser is like that. What do I do? Well, a couple of things you can do. You can add a piece of styrofoam and level it out, or Woodland Scenics sells this foam putty, and that's exactly what it's for, is to fill in a gap like that. You can fill it in, use your putty knife, level it, let it dry, and then sand it. It's very sandable, and it works great for leveling your risers like that. There's another way, another thing that you can do, which I think I have in a very old video from about 3 years ago, but I had that issue right there. It's hard to see. It's right where that ballast is a little heavier, right there. I had a dip there. So every time my trains, not every one of them, but a lot of my cars would uncouple right there because of, this dip. So what I did was let me zoom in a little here. I took my X-Acto knife, cut a slit on the side. I took a wide tongue depressor, stuck it in there, broke it off, and then I ballasted back over it. So I physically lifted the track and the track bed up just enough to get rid of that dip. You can still see it just a tiny little bit, right where that ballast is kind of heavy, but it fixed the problem. So that's another way that you can deal with a dip like that if it happens after the fact. I had another issue on the inside of that tunnel. I had to do basically the same thing, but I had to do it through that access point in the back, and that was very difficult. So that's why I'm saying, hey, before you seal up that mountain, make sure you get your track bed flat. Okay, and then last week, or 2 weeks ago actually, when I talked about the couplers and solving your coupler hang-ups on the layout, I mentioned that I use KD couplers. I buy these by the bulk 25 pair. These are the number 148s in the 25 pair package. I have those, but dedicated fan of the channel, Donnie S from Danbury, Connecticut, sent me a link to KD's coupler conversion page. So I'm going to put that in the description, and I'll also put it here. I'll just type it out, put it here on the screen, but I suggest you go to the description to hit the link. But KD offers a conversion chart, or actually it's a page, it's a web page, and they'll tell you if you've got whatever kind of car you might have, if it's a Bachmann or if it's an AccuRail, like let's see, I've got an AccuRail here. That's an AccuRail. And I've got another one somewhere, but I don't see it. I think it's being pulled by the switcher. But your Bachmanns and basically all your big brand cars, it'll have a chart telling you what the best coupler that KD makes, what number you should convert to if you're converting them. So Donnie, thank you so much. That is an excellent tip, and appreciate that. Another question I got recently was, hey Dan, one of your videos when you guys were live and your circuit breaker kept tripping, you took it out of line. But now I notice it's back. And that question is very valid. On retrospect, I did take it out of line because just trying to run neighbor Mike's steamer around here, every time it would hit a switch, it would trip the circuit breaker. So we pulled it out of line. But then on retrospect, I was talking to Tom, who's working on my 306 locomotive, as you know, and we'll have an update with that probably on the next video. But he said that he found some damage, and I had shared that a couple of videos back, a burned out chip on the decoder. So we determined, he and I conversing about that, we kind of figured it's probably better to put that circuit breaker back in line. For the most part, when I run my stuff, it does not trip. I put it at its highest setting. It has some little switches here that you can convert. If you look at the instructions for it, it'll show you. So I put it at its highest setting, and for the most part, it stays connected. I don't trip the breaker quite as much as I did before. So just to be safe, I put it back in. I recommend everybody do that if you're running high power like we are here with the Smart Booster. Definitely put that back in line. I think it's a good idea. All right, that's about it for the questions this week. Continue to send me those questions. I love answering them if I can. If I can't, I will get with some other people who can help with that, and we'll get you an answer at some point. I love talking about it on the videos, so that's great. A couple of upcoming projects I want to get into, nothing huge because I have been pretty busy with a lot of other things, but I want to continue doing a little bit of scenery work here in the yard. Haven't decided if I want to actually ballast in here in the yard. I kind of like it the way it is here with the cork. Just let the ballast kind of end here the way I have it. But let me know what you guys think. Should I ballast this yard or should I keep it the way it is? I do want to do some more ground cover. Like here I've got a mixture of turf and dirt. Of course here we just painted it for a roadway. I could paint it to look like asphalt. I could paint it to look like concrete. I could ballast it so the tracks are level. I could plaster it where people do that, where there's a lot of foot traffic and vehicle traffic, but I'm not going to do that here. The whole point of it was to be able to move it if I want to. So I don't think I'll plaster, but let me know if you have any suggestions about that. Another project, of course, you know, the lighting. I've been talking about that for a year now. I got to get the street lights in here and light up the rest of the buildings. It's just kind of a pain working over there and trying to get, you know, everything down, but I do need to do that and get that going. So with that being said, if you guys have any suggestions for upcoming projects or questions, again, if you have questions that I can answer, please let me know in comments. I'm open to suggestions on what you'd like to see as far as the video goes. Is it time for another cab ride video? Do you want to see operations, trains running, how-tos? You have specific questions on how did I do this or that? Let me know and I'll address it in the videos. So with that being said, it's time for our not so new, but our fan photo feature. And this week we are featuring Bill S. from Loveland, Colorado, who just received his Dan's Grand Valley mug. So check out Bill. He looks pretty cool with his cigar and his cup going there. Thank you so much, Bill, for sending that in. I really appreciate it. And again, if you guys want to send yours, again, your merchandise or your layout video, or not video, but pictures, layout where you're at, I will gladly share it on our fan photo feature. Again, that email is dansgrandvalley@gmail.com. It'll be in the description below. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching this week's video. I appreciate it. Thank you for interacting with me, and super appreciate all you guys sharing and subscribing and liking. It helps the channel tremendously. So with that being said, thank you so much. We'll see you again next video. Have a very blessed time. See you next time.